A tēnā mai anō rā e tātauma, tēnā mai anō, hoki tonu mai ki roto ki ngā kōrero a Tahumaakaakanuimatua Hapu o Tutura, Hapu iwi, Taunahatū puna, settlements, ngā whakataunga kleme, I roto tēnei rā. I nei wā, e āpiti atuna, ake atu ana, nā e tātou e mātau I te kōrero ke atu ki ngā kōrero kua tau ke mai nei ki roto ki a tātou mātau I roto I nei wā. Anu reira hoki tonu mai tēnā rā tātou. Kai te mihi atu tēnā rā tātou Māori ora. Kahuri. So a great need here. Don't ask me what happened because I don't know, but I suspect the whole of the Wi-Fi went out and it's now started back up again. So lucky for that. But then now we have to go off a video too, rolling along with the same kōrero e tātou mā. And that's the major thing I do not enjoy about broadcasting our kōrero from this location. But then again, you know what? We have no real problems there. We have the Wi-Fi back in order now, and we need to go off a video too. Which should work out just fine if we work it through the right pages in order to get the kōrero out there to our people. Now, just where we were talking around the reo Hapu iwi, and we were talking about the simple fact that we'd run into some trouble where the kahunurangi tāne, the two hoiawa were claiming that reo to be theirs. The kahunurangi tāne as well, attempting to try and take control. I think we spoke at length just earlier about some of the ways in which they try to shrewdly do that. Te rori ke hoki o rātau, and they utilise this process where they make legal the legal. Yeah, this is the sort of process that we're working with. They utilise the public, and can stand up to public scrutiny, but this is not the thing. The thing is that in the process of the whole of their manner of utilising the process, they're actually trespassing customary law, and that's not good. That's not good. The system needs to change. The Crown needs to change. They try to make out they've changed these days. We don't think so. We think they're still feudal. We think they still think that they can have absolute authority over our people and absolute authority over outcomes of anything and conclusions of just about anything. Okay, tātauma, but let's carry on with our kōrero until the end. I did promise that this kōrero would be about an hour. It's probably going to take us, who knows, probably an hour and a half maybe, but we need to roll on knowing that the major part around the reo Hapu iwi is we cannot have things like this happening. We cannot have this sort of conflict happening whilst we're allowing people the right to look into this sort of reo that was largely held in to the Hapu iwi. And it certainly isn't awa, certainly isn't tūhoe, and certainly is not kahunu o rangitane in origin. Okay, tātauma? Primarily, one of the major reasons for broadcasting today, e tātauma, is so that we can set up for the kōrero on Te Tiriti on the All Monday or the Magna Carta for next week, for Monday, for Mō Teo. Okay, and so yeah, that's what's happening with the Reo Hapu Iwi. Yeah, for all these groups, I mean, wai maria hoki koutou, you know? Me kore ake koutou I te ngākau nui o mātou, ngākau āroha tonu ke hoki anō o mātou. Mea tia nei mātou te reo, me o hona tuāhuatanga katoa, I roto ia mātou. I roto Tahumaakaakanuimatua o Tutura. I roto anō hoki o te awa Hapu iwi. I roto anō hoki o Moai. Have some respect, e tatauma. Like the rest of the world. Yeah, it's quite amazing. The rest of the world is being amazing to us. You know, I find it hard to believe that our very own super tribes in the Motu can't behave. You know, they can't do things by law. They can't do things right. And they make unfounded, wishy-washy, lack of foundational matter in claims on taonga tukuiho like this. This is a taonga tukuiho definitely of ours. You know, the nuances, the Rewa Hapu iwi within there, sometimes the ngā kupu katoa mai roto Tahumaakaakanuimatua. Ara e tahi o roto te awa Hapu iwi, o roto moa I Hapu iwi I roto I tahi wā. Anō hoki. So, yeah, be respectful e tatauma, and then we might be able to bring the reo Hapu iwi back into full circulation and full motion as we were doing so previously. Luckily, the reo matua is buzzing. It's humming, and everyone's doing really, really well with that. Luckily, that's such a universal carriage of te reo, a universal form of te reo. Still, ours is Tahumaakaakanuimatua o Tutura Hapu iwi. So we need to understand these sorts of these sorts of details. People need to get their heads around quick. You can't play, you know, te porohi o I nei tāngatane, you know. You can't just play around with these things. Ho ake hoki mātau I te rātu āhua, I nei te porohi nei. You know, you can't do things like that. Not with taonga tukuiho like this. You know, in the times of our tūpuna, you know, it was a great honour and privilege. You lost that altogether sometimes. And the way in which people disrespect these taonga today. Like, some people, you know, even though they're elder, like even elder people, they just don't have that ability to be able to appreciate and respect the strength of others, even when they're younger. You know, and sometimes, you know, the spite and the jealousy. And jealousies, we don't like to concentrate on. We don't like to focus on because they're not important to us. And they shouldn't be important to those people that harbour jealousies and envies. People that harbour things like that are looking for conflict. Because that's all that they're going to get. That's all they're ever going to get is conflict over jealousies, you know. Division, conflict, all that sort of thing. That's what happens with stuff like that. So that's the reo hapu iwi. So in other words, it's not being considered until the conclusion of these settlements, and that the whakatapu is lifted off Wairarapa Tararua and Heretanga Te Wairua. Okay? So we cannot be seen to be continuing on with this sort of behaviour, tatauma. It's just so immature, you know. Te kai mātua o te āhuatanga nei, te porohi nei, te takataka hi tonu nei. You know, it's trampling as well. Te mana ui ni taonga, kai te takataka hi. And we're not happy with that, obviously. But we will continue because we have specific goals and aims in the space, unlike others. We have specific ones that are of a positive character and that have spin-offs for just about everybody. Okay? They're not just good for us. So forget these jealousies. We're not worried about the power and the strength. Those are not the important things. The most important things in this space is the people and how well you can come through for those people. How well can you deliver? Can you stand up, you know, to the scrutiny? All those sorts of things is what matters in this space, not the power you can gain. You do get some authority, but like any power or responsibility or obligation, you have to wield it properly. You can't abuse that sort of thing. And I think most people like this, who have jealousies, or like this, who harbour these sorts of things and are spiteful in the space, they are particularly abusive with power. Something we need to be careful of, tatauma, power. Sometimes some people can have far too much and they fall over as a result. Ka hinga tonu hoki nā tai. Hinga tonu atu I roto I te mea nei, kore o rātau mahara tonu ki tēnei mea, te mana o te mea. Mana rawa, kaharawa o te mea. You know, tēnei mea, you know, this thing we call power, we need to be very, very careful of. And some people haven't learnt about power and the effect, the impact that the wrong use of power can have. Okay? When you utilize that power correctly, when you use it rightfully for the people for whom it is, only then can that power do any good. Unlike the kahunurangitane and te karauna, who wield their power mostly wrongfully. They make out that they're doing good for the public at large, but in actual fact they're not. They're not. Okay? As propagandists as they are, if they think that the success in being propagandists is a measure of what they're able to accomplish in the space, we'd like them to forget about that. Because whilst we're around, they'll never get away with things like that. Okay? We bring the truth. We like to bring the facts into the space, because that's what helps the rest of us to breathe in the space and survive and live life with quality and to survive with quality lives. Okay? Instead of stressing over different causes of various different problems that power mongers like to wield in the space, like kahunurangitane and te karauna. Okay? Okay? And we're not afraid to say so. We'll say it if it needs to be said. And if the people need to hear about it, we'll make sure that they hear about it. Just like us today, answering all the questions out there. Okay? So looking forward as well to some of the questions that have been posed, even from last week when I spoke about the handover of Wairarapa Moana. Crazy, eh? Pōrangi tonu hoki taku ki te ngātu ki te rawa e ahau, te ahua o te huatu ne. You know, the handover, te whakahoki ngāti o Wairarapa Moana. You know, they said, kahunu iwi rangita ne iwi, and I laughed. And I said, well, since when? Where's their mana iwi? You know? Where's their you know, he pērā rawa te kaha? You know? Kareka. You know, they're not of the strength. They're not of the power. They're not even halfway there. You know, even as a stage one, Rangitāne has a long way to go. Kahunu uri whānauri. Yeah, they haven't even learned to be that. You know, so, you know, extremely kihau aratau ini you know, ini tangata extremely kihau, extremely boastful e tatauma are they, you know, posting in the paper that he wiki huki no rata. You know, that's absolutely false. The ethics, the transparency is just not there. Ara, taku kōrero no hoki I a te crown. Hey, they haven't changed. Feudal tonu ke rā tua hua tangakatua. They haven't changed. They haven't changed. Okay? And kahunu rangitāne are really sucking up to them to try and get their way and play this power game with us. But in the end, we're just going to take it anyway. Because it's ours. We don't have to play any power game because we had those blessings. We and our tūpuna, most directly, we have those blessings. All of the seniorships with us. All of our seniors with us. All of our seniors from out of the islands as well, most direct with us. We all have those blessings from the Lord. Okay? Huge blessings, those. That's how we look at power. And we wield it and use it via the highest power. Okay? Always the best way we're finding that it's always the best way. So very, very considerate, caring and nurturing for the people. This is why we work with, you know, te taha ki te wairua e oki kaua kia tuana kirunga ki ai. Ki ai I e hōwia ana. Atua nui tū uri whā io. Atua matua. Atua rungarawa. Atua kaharawa. Yeah, we're not that silly. We're not that silly. But when the Lord, when God uses that power, he always uses it rightfully and justly. And so we're always leaning upon the Lord for those understandings and those workings to come through for us. His wisdom, his knowledge is, infinite, you know. So we depend on that. We depend on the greatest power that all the universes have ever seen. Okay? And so moving on from where we were with the reo hapu iwi e tatauma, let's look at, I made a statement last week around around Waitarapa Moana and the handover. And I said, on Monday I made the point that, it was last Thursday, last te Kaaou. I made the point that Kahungunu only hold small parts of Waitarapa Moana. Why? And this is why I made that point that I'd love to punch the crown in the head. I made that point. I'd love to kick them fair in the ass. You know why? Because by giving it over to Kahungunu Rangitane, it makes it look like that they're the rightful people, the rightful owners, and that's not true. So people ask me to explain my view on that, and my view is clear. My view is factual. And I said they only own small parts of it, and I'm right in that, because the numbers, one thing Kahungunu Rangitane have learned about us is never crunch numbers with us, and they are only around about 3,500 Kahungunu, 3,500 to 4,000, somewhere around there in Waitarapa. That's their true numbers, see? And that's even today. Okay? You look at all of the Tahumaakaakanuimatua right throughout these last 2 centuries, the huge majority have always been Tahumaakaakanuimatua. How much have we got today? How many, have we got today in population in Waitarapa? 19,000. See? And that's including our island people in the region, around about 3,000 there. Okay, we are around about 19,000 easy. Okay, why? Because we account for everybody. Everybody is Tahumaakaakanuimatua. However, Kahungunu Rangitane, remember me saying? They're right down there, 200,000 ancestries in the junior position. See the power game they're playing? Isn't that ridiculous? Fancy being so junior, and because they've got such an ego, they love playing these power games with this crown embodiment of the Crown of Westminster, with such an ego still too today, and who in actual fact are still feudal, playing the same game. Okay? Because we are the legal and rightful owners of Waitarapa, we're going to take it anyway. If our settlement fails to come through via these people, we'll take it anyway. Okay, any way and anyhow we need to, even if it takes going to the settlement, having some of our people take full control of the settlement, and the settlement actually agreeing for the settlement to go under us rightfully. And we hold all the power, we hold all the taonga tuku iho, we hold all the karakia, everything is ours, tūturu. Not Kahungunu Rangitane. They're just jealous. They are very, very jealous. Okay? So the land within Waitarapa Moana, they only make up for about 20-25% of that land. And we make up about 75 to 80% of that land. That's how much we own. But then again, if we're not going to be particular about the different groups in there, the whole lot are actually Tahumaakaakanuimatua or Tutura Hapu iwi anyway, which is us, yet again. Okay, so these are some of the details that people needed to hear. E tatauma. We understand, sometimes kōrero comes about that we hear, and we always share that, and we have heard that, there will be settlements for certain, for Waitarapa, and they will be for Tahumaakaakanuimatua. Now we're trying to ensure as much as we can that they go under us, because they have to. I mean, customarily they have to. Okay, and we hold all of the most senior lines. We are the Tutura, the most senior surviving of Tahumaakaakanuimatua. I am my whānau. We are entrusted with the Taiopuru Ariki Matauda, that is the Ahurewa Tapu. You can't get an Ariki higher than that, or a Taiopuru of higher pedigree than that. And I've been holding that for the last 15 going on 16 years. Okay, and doing very, very well. And in fact, we've added to it already. Very, very highly. Not something that the kahunu or rangitane would even be able to tackle. And in fact, I don't think they'll even stand up. They don't realise this. But they're just not made for this stuff. And this is why we're never ever going to give it over to them, no matter how they want to use the Crown process to try and get us to do that. No chance. No chance. They want a war about it. I'll be right in line with that. Okay? They want that. That's easily done, and that's what our people want. I don't want to go there. That's what our people want. If they want that, we're easy. I'm easy. Okay? Otherwise, they need to go under. They're 200,000 lines down. They need to go under. Okay? But in the end, we're just going to take it. If they try and stop us, well, then you're going to end up with a war anyway. And our people are ready for that. Yeah, I mean, I've been saying that for just about all year. Our people are ready for that, and as much control as I can have. Yeah, as I've said before, at the end of the day, the last resort, just as for our tūpuna, was to go to war and take issues to war. Okay, and we'll get justice then. I guarantee you. I guarantee you, because these people are not realising what they're messing with. They sort of understand what they're messing with, but they think that Tūhoe have got enough for them. It doesn't really matter. This is their lack of understanding. Hapa ke hoki rātai. Ki te māramatonu me te mōhio. Ki te āhuatanga nei. They're so sucked in by Tūhoe and the Tūhoe ways of thinking. And it's not true. Anything Tūhoe can give for them is not going to help them do well at this level. They're going to fail. They will fall down. And first things first, if they did take over, they'd end up with a war straight away. They'd get taken up. Okay? They're not to know. Yeah, they're creating a vacuum, a power mongering that's just going to blow up in their face. That's what they're actually up to at Tatama. You wanted the gold hard facts? I'm giving them to you. That's what the situation looks like. Okay, but yeah, so that we get that flow on effect with TDT and we can get through our kōrero easier at Tatama. But yeah, we have heard, that settlements are going to go down. We are going to conclude with everything under us. For us, yeah, we'll see that when we see that. Yeah, we'll believe it. Yeah, once I see that dotted line when it's signed. Kwa mea tia ki tia ni, So, and we're not silly, but some of our whānau and uri and hapu are, they're really not willing to lay down. That's the reality. They're really not willing to lay down because we've shown them such a massive example, because we've brought them to such a stage in the life and times in the modern era for Tahumaakaakanuimatua or Tutura Hapu iwi. They're not willing to lay down. Okay? So crazy, yeah. Pōrangi tonu hoki. Te āhua o te rori o te whakahaere o te mea. O te karauna kahunu rangitāne. Okay, that's, yeah, utterly crazy. Pōrangi rawa. Okay, and this is why I said that. I mean, I probably won't do it at the end of the day, but I'd love to kick them fair in the ass and smash their head in, you know. And I mention things like that because it's only easy for me to do something like that, you know. If they want that, you know, you've got to oblige in some cases, eh? Because some people are that stupid, that pōrangi, you know. But yeah, carrying on from there, lots more questions there were on the takitimu, the journey of the takitimu. Some people asked, now, when takitimu got to the south, didn't they land at Kaaou first? I said yes. But firstly it was around Marlborough to Taranui. Okay? And then they journeyed their way around to Kaaou. Okay? Yeah, so, and then all those other areas, Arahura, te mea. So yes, that's true. And Tahupōtiki, that's where they begin, around 1350 AD. The same with Waitaha Ariki and Waitaha Nui. Around about 1100, 1200, those two Hapu Ureta Rewa Whānauri, that's when they got there. Okay? Let's remember, not all of our tribes were fully there in the beginning. So over 1,000 years ago, mostly the tops of Tahumaakaakanuimatua or Tutura Hapu iwi. Okay, the tops. Tutura te matua, te awa, moai Hapu, and some of Māmoe, Hapu iwi, whānauri, and of course, Moriori. But I say not all of us were there because more and more of those branches of our people came through in the following two migrations. That's in 1100, 1200, Waitaha Ariki, Waitaha Nui. Just speaking about Te Arawa, some people asked around Te Arawa. I said, well, Te Arawa came in around about the same time. If they intermarried Waitaha Nui with Waitaha Nui, then it was done around about that time, 1350 onwards. Okay? They cannot say that they came here when Waitaha Nui came here. That's not true. They cannot say that they came here when Waitaha Ariki came here. That's not true either. Moaupoko came in at round about the same time. And all the rest of Māmoe. Okay, see, so we know who's who. We know where they were. We know how things went according to the kōrero. And all of ngā rangahau tangakatua. Ngā rangahau katua. O Tahumaakaakanuimatua o Tutura. Okay, yes, and so Kaaou, yes, was definitely peopled by Waitaha Arangi as well. Okay. Tutura Tama was there, Tahumaakaakanuimatua, and all of them were already there. Right through the South Island, Tahumaakaakanuimatua or Tutura was already there. We are not too sure how Moriori, how Te Awa were placed in those areas. We're not claiming into any areas. If we were, we would know. To our knowledge, no, we're not. Okay? But we do know we were one of the most expensive of the originals. Okay? Moriori and Moai Hapu Iwi were both quite expensive, but not to the extent in actual fact that we were, or Te Awa. Okay, we know that because we've looked over these lands, and we have to look at Te Awa. You know, we're forced to. Why? Because we are Te Awa. You know, we just have to look at our own lands of Tahumaakaakanuimatua. So we're always looking all the time for traces of Te Awa. We're always looking all the time for traces of Moai Hapu. You know, we never stop doing that. And we're not going to stop the research into all of that. And takitimu is a big part of that for us. Because, yeah, not only was takitimu headed by Tahumaakaakanuimatua, but who else are we? We are the Te Awa. See? Koia te mana tapu o takitimu waka. Okay, yeah, it started with Rarotonga and Ngā Raudu, whiro te tupua manatu, hirawe. Hoi anō, ka puta mai I roto waitaha rangi, a tamate ariki nui. Tamate ariki nui, mai roto I ngā uri a rongo kako matua, I a korotai matua, rā iwa ko ira manawa piko. Okay, te mea. There's a number of different ancestries prior to that one as well. Okay, but then only some of them, most of Tahumaakaakanuimatua and all of the seniorships into the Tahumaakaakanuimatua aloha mai, of Tahumaakaakanuimatua or Tutura, Hapu Iwi, were already here in the motu. So it wasn't easy for Tahupōtiki to expand. It wasn't easy for Waitaha Rangi to expand, but they did. And don't forget, Tahupōtiki has always been uri whānauri. They have yet to to be blessed with an uriatarewa. Okay, so they're uri whānauri, and always have been. So the extent that they claim in the south could never be to the degree that they do claim. Highly mistaken is that view. Okay, and it has to be. You look at the timing that they came here, you look at who was here already, and then you think about how difficult it was for them. But they rode that wave really, really well. If you study the intermarriages of Tahupōtiki through all of the 7 to 9 lines of Tahumaakaakanuimatua, they went for it. They went for it. Where any opportunity for intermarriage was, they went for it. And rightfully so that they would, because any opportunity, I mean, okay, they were the most junior of Tahumaakaakanuimatua that were down there, but they still obtained the opportunity to intermarry, and they took it almost all the time. And who are the 9 of our lines that intermarried the Tahupōtiki? Tahumaakaakanuimatua o Tutura Hapu Iwi Nui Tonu. Okay, that's the first of the Uriatarewa. Okay, and they were the first of Tahumaakaakanuimatua in the motu. Okay, and a number of the other ancestries as well. Okay, now I reiterate that fact that they went for it. The Tahupōtiki, Waitaha Rangi were the same. That's why you see them so expansively figuring in a lot of the lands right across the motu. Even though they're not, hugely extensive lands, they're still lands nonetheless. But they're amongst a lot of hugely extensive lands that are Tahumaakaakanuimatua o Tutura Hapu iwi. Okay? In the east, like I say, Moriori are doing really, really well. I already knew, we already knew they have so much land in the east that they haven't accounted for yet. So, but, for us, we know where our lands are in the east. And we're quite happy with these, so we can carry on and move on into Te Tiriti, the old money. And the money, the Magna Carta, and give it that flow-on effect and continue to coordinate around that. Okay, who are those 9? Tahumaakaakanuimatua Hapu iwi nui tonu. Okay, Tahumaakaakanuimatua te tama, uri whānauri. Tahumaakaakanuimatua te tamarua, uri whānauri. Okay. Rā kainui, hapu ureta rewa whānauri, tau matarahi matua, hapu ureta rewa whānauri, some of them, some of the most junior of them. Okay, you've also got Te TeTaiRawhitiAukatiTai in there, but they're mostly in the top of the south. So, things tend to spill over from the top of the south, especially from Kaaou, from the top of the south into, because Kaaou held on to, even though it's a part of the Western Division, Kaaou held on to we talk about Tahumaakaakanuimatua Hapu iwi nui tonu. Well, Tutura Tama is a part of that. Okay? So is Tahumaakaakanuimatua te tama, Tahumaakaakanuimatua te tamarua. But they're like 1 to 2 lines down. Okay? They're off the main line of Tahumaakaakanuimatua or Tutura. Okay? Who else is there? Mā moe hapu iwi whānauri. Okay, who else is there? Waitaha ariki. Who else is there? Waitaha nui. And who else is there? Waitaha arangi. Okay, and you'll find that just prior to that in the line of statuses, in the line of whakapapa, just before Waitaha arangi, you get the tahu pōtiki, who though are senior, are interchangeable in the lands of Waitaha rangi. So very, very difficult for Waitaha rangi to grow and to expand. For either, for Tahu Pōtiki to grow and expand to the extent that we think. And that's why we say most of the expansions were through the Tahumaakaakanuimatua or Tutura. Okay, and they could only have been because we right through all those 9 lines intermarried them out numerous times. Overlays. We're not silly. However, as you well know, with interpreting lines of descent like this, lines of ancestry, the senior, the most prestigious of those lines, the lands that they descended from, the ancestries, all Tahumaakaakanuimatua. So the mana tapu of Tahumaakaakanuimatua continue to grow and expand from right throughout all those lands. Not the lines of Tahu Pōtiki, not the lines of Waitaha rangi. Okay? And that's the extent of the power base of Tahumaakaakanuimatua or Tutura. Okay, let's look quickly at, because we need to answer some questions around Here Taunga Ararau Te Wairua. Let's look real quickly at the kahungunu in Here Taunga Ararau Te Wairua. Roughly around about 5 to 8,000, around about. Roughly around about 2,500 in terms of rangitane. Because we need to remember, with those in Wairarapa, there's only about 21,000 kahungunu in the land. Okay? 21,000, so we've got to account for those in Wellington, we've got to account for those in the top of the south, and also in the west. Okay? So there's not actually that many in terms, if we crunch the numbers right, and we know we've got it right. Okay? 5 to 8,000 only in Here Taunga Ararau Te Wairua. But they are the majority of their people in Here Taunga Ararau Te Wairua. Okay? Apart from those in Tauranga, but they don't realise, but in Tauranga they're very, very few. Most of the people of Kahungunu Uri, Whānau Uri, are actually in Here Taunga Ararau Te Wairua. Yeah, in the 2,500, I mean, there's only about 10 to 15,000 rangitane nuiarangi in the motu. Okay? That's according to our numbers. So there's very little, in fact, in Here Taunga Ararau Te Wairua. Just like there's very little in Wairarapa. In fact, I think most of the numbers of rangitane nuiarangi is in Te Papaioia. That's Palmerston North. Manawatu. Okay, and we have to remember, e tatauma, that the rangitane are not the only people of Manawatu. Tahumaakaakanuimatua tribes are also in Manawatu. So they need to be careful of that as well. Okay, we actually claim into Manawatu. Apiti as well. We claim into all those areas. Apiti was a refuge in times of war. See? And we know Tahumaakaakanuimatua utilised Apiti quite often. It was a great sojourning area for the Tahumaakaakanuimatua as well. And we lived within the Papaioia areas, especially around Otaki, all the way into Manawatu, Rangitike, all the way into there, into Manawatu. Oh, we're not that silly. We're not that silly. And then Horowhenua, and then we get all our lines in the Porirua ki Manawatu area. Okay? And then, of course, Te Whanganui o Rotu, Te Whanganui Atara. I mean, they're all ours anyway. Even rangitane are ours. Okay? Through Kaaou. We hold the senior line. So between us and Whātonga, I mean, yeah, we're far too much the majority there. Okay, so that should answer a lot of the questions there that a lot of people have around the Here Taunga Ararau Te Wairua region. And, you know, because people were wondering, well, if they have such small parts in, of ownership in lands, etc., in Wairarapa, is it the same in Here Taunga Wairua? Well, they own a lot more in Here Taunga Wairua, but they are still, yeah, they're still a very minor group compared to Tahumaakaakanuimatua, because the whole lot are Tahumaakaakanuimatua. Okay, all of the people of Here Taunga Ararau Te Wairua are Tahumaakaakanuimatua. Okay, they've always overclaimed kahungunu in Here Taunga Ararau Te Wairua. Yeah, they've always done that, even right through the whole of TeTaiRawhitiAukatiTai. Tutura has done it, Awa has done it, they've always claimed kahungunu. Even Waikato do it. They claim massive connections to kahungunu, and it's not true. It's not true. Okay? And that's been the biggest problem with Here Taunga Te Wairua. Their interpretations of ancestry descents has been absolutely inaccurate, faulty. Too willing have they been in Here Taunga Te Wairua to draw the conclusion real fast that everyone was kahungunu, and that's not true. Okay, the entirety of Here Taunga Te Wairua is actually Tahumaakaakanuimatua. But if we want to get picky, around about between, we'd say around about easily 6,000 or 7,000 are the kahungunu in Here Taunga Te Wairua. All the rest, if we want to get picky, is Tahumaakaakanuimatua, including Mamwe. Okay, everyone? Hopefully that helps everyone realise. There's not just kahungunu rangitane in Here Taunga Te Wairua. I mean, we know there's express amount of land that can go under the rangatiratanga of Mamwe, Tahumaakaakanuimatua, Kaaou, and Tahumaakaakanuimatua. And then you've got the small, there's still relatively small amounts of land that they have there anyway. They have the smaller amounts within the land possessions in Here Taunga Te Wairua. They have the much smaller. We have the greater, including those of Mamwe, Hapu iwi, Tahumaakaakanuimatua, Hapu iwi, Kaaou, Hapu iwi as well, whānauri. Okay? But the whole of the region is Tahumaakaakanuimatua. And if we weren't picky, even all their groups are Tahumaakaakanuimatua anyway. Right down the bottom. That's why there's so few. Okay, 200,000 ancestry still are they. In Here Taunga Te Wairua. That's why there's so few. Okay, and just remember, Tatama, that's why, we claim 280,000 plus in the Mutu, and we're right. We've crunched those numbers for a long time now. And already people in the south are saying that we have to have a lot more. And I don't think they're wrong. We don't think they're wrong, but we haven't taken our numbers past that yet. Once they do go past that, they have gone past 280,000, but once they do go way beyond that, then we'll start to work with those numbers some more. Once we hit 300,000 maybe, we'll start to change our numbers and start crunching with those numbers. Okay, tatama. So we'll see you all next Monday. Mō teo. Rua ngahuru mārua Ngamaatoutou, te rua mano. Rua ngahuru māwha e tatama. Hoki tonu mai ki roto, hoki anō. Mai ei, ki roto ki a tatamatau ki ngā kōrera Tahumaakaakanuimatua o Tutura. Hapu iwi, Taunahaatū puna, whakataunga krene, hoki mai, e tātou mā. Father Lord, thank you so much. Even though we had the little hitches in our kōrero today, we still managed to get through all the kōrero. We've taken a wee bit longer than we planned, but however, if the little interferences there had never happened, then of course we wouldn't have taken so long. Epa, Yehoia. We're so happy that you're always with us. We're so happy because when things happen of this nature, when things don't go quite right, you're always there and you help us still get through them with flying colours, just as we have today. I'm so happy that we didn't get too negative also today or get hung up on, te karauna and kahunu rangitane, because that's not something we actually enjoy doing. But sometimes it needs to be said. Father Lord, and we also are so glad that you're there. We wish, though, that they would communicate with us a lot more. We need far more communication. I think they just like us being, holding up in the dark there, while they get to know exactly what's going on with their process and what they're up to properly. But we do get to hear about stuff. So hopefully, what we've heard is correct. Okay? Other than that, Father Lord, please make sure that they advise us of exactly what's happening, so that we can know what to do, so that we can make sure that we do exactly what we need to do for our people, for the future of our tamariki and mokopuna, and the future generations of Tahumaakaakanuimatua, or Tutura, our Hapuri as well. And all of our peoples impacted by our work, hopefully in the most positive ways. That's what we're trying to aim for in the long term, Father Lord, but we know we can only accomplish all these things with you. In Jesus' mighty name. Amen. Kaaou hono ka tātai hono, ko rātau mā anō tērā rātau, te kāno hi mate ki a rātau. Kaaou hono ka tātai hono, ko tātau mātonu anō tēnei tātau mātau, te kāno hi ora ki a tātau mātau mā. Kua, ai te mihi atu, kai te mihi atu, kai te mihi atu tēnā rātātau. Tēnā rātātau, hei a tēnā wiki, ai te mō teo. Mauri ora, kahuri.